Hey everybody, sorry about not posting one yesterday. He had a pretty rough day. He had delirium and withdrawals going on, and so for a kid who usually sleeps about 14 hours, he slept almost none. He really didn't sleep well so Sunday going into Monday night, and then all throughout the day, he usually takes about 2 naps during the day, and he had zero naps. And he was exhausted. He was trying to sleep, and then like any noise or anything that went off, like he basically just had PTSD and would just wake up, like heart rate would spike, blood pressure would spike, and he would just take forever to kind of console back down. And so we had kind of dealt with this before on another stay, in his first day here, the really long one. And part of it is just that he's getting older and more aware of what's going on, and so he associates things. And he also was not very sedated this trip. And so because he was not heavily sedated, he was definitely more aware of what was going on. And so, for example, like when the door would open, he would automatically panic because during the last 5 days, from when he had the stroke to, all this time, when the door would open, it usually meant somebody was coming to assess him and, open his eyes, use a pupillometer, which measures the pupils in his eyes to kind of make sure that he's not having continuing bleeding or seizures or things of that nature. And so, he would hear that door open and it basically meant somebody was coming to mess with him and not let him sleep. And again, it just led to delirium and probably a little bit of PTSD. And it definitely didn't help that we, basically cut him almost cold turkey off of his meds once we extubated him, taking the tube out. And so he let us know yesterday he was not a happy camper. He had a couple rescue morphines. Those seemed to help, which also kind of strengthened the theory that it was kind of being driven by withdrawals. But he had honking or just a huge fever at the end of the day. He ended up with a fever of 103 yesterday afternoon and evening, and it was pretty tacky, meaning that his he was tachycardic. Heart rate was pretty high, anywhere from like 170 to 200 at different points in time, and pretty sustained in those ranges, except for when we would give him like the methadone or the morphine, and that would kind of bring him down just a little bit, usually for a little while, and he'd go back up. And so he really, even though he would kind of come down for a little bit, he would still stay pretty tachycardic and just irritable and agitated. So eventually we gave him Seroquel, which is for delirium. And then he ended up sleeping about 5.5 hours. And that's when he threw the fever pretty bad. He had a little bit of fever before that, but it wasn't really, really bad until kind of middle of the night. And when that happened, he then had to go on blood cultures and things like that to make sure he doesn't have an active infection. Good news, they all tested negative. The bad news was that he basically stopped sleeping after that and was wide awake up until like 11 a.m. He finally took another nap for about an hour and a half, and then took another nap this evening for about 30 minutes. And so he's asleep now. But today was definitely better than yesterday, but it definitely, the last 2 days have been rough. Today we got to see him kind of have a little bit of a return to his personality. So we saw his first smiles. His fever throughout the day has kind of gradually worked its way down from 103 back to normal 98, which again, also further evidence probably this is withdrawals rather than it being something more sinister like a continued bleed. Also, he has had a little more mobility in his right extremities today, which is good. It's a good sign. Now, again, they're still very weak. It's still very limited mobility. However, he had PT and they kind of assessed him, and he definitely has some mobility in that right side. So that's a good sign. There's movement there to work with, and there's still neural pathways that his right side is still responding to. So the hope would be that with time and with neuroplasticity, meaning that the brain's ability to adjust, and in babies, it is much higher than like in you or I as adults. So if you or I were to have a stroke, we might never regain movement in that limb. With him, even though this is a severe stroke and it's very large, he has the ability over time with that neuroplasticity to be able to kind of regain function in it, kind of like with his left leg. His left leg after the first 2 strokes was almost non-existent in terms of like how weak it was and how little mobility was in it. But if you go back and look in the last few videos prior to him having the stroke, it pretty much matches his right. His right hip was definitely his preferred. However, his left was pretty much back into full mobility. And if you didn't know that he had strokes, you wouldn't know that he had any deficits on his left side. So the hope would be, given time and rehabilitation, that he will regain that movement and those skills that he had with his right hand and his right leg. But it will take time, anywhere from 6 months to a year, and possibly even longer. So we'll start down that road once we get the CT scan for tomorrow. Hopefully it comes back, and we're praying that it comes back stable and that things are fine. And even better would be if they go ahead and start saying like the swelling is going down and things of that nature. But we're waiting on that to kind of confirm that he is kind of out of this acute period, and then we will kind of turn our focus toward rehabilitation and therapies and things like that, trying to focus on moving forward and getting him bigger and stronger for that next surgery. And then one of the other things he did today that, again, was kind of his personality coming back, he took one of his Snuggies and was doing like toys to his mouth, which is something that he was doing prior to all of this. And so that was one of his comfort things, is trying to stick his fingers or toys in his mouth. And so that was good to kind of, again, definitely still not fully himself today, still very irritable, still kind of out of sorts, but definitely more than what he's been the last 3 or 4 days between being intubated and then even yesterday when he got extubated, just not being himself at all because of the delirium and the withdrawals. And then during all of this, Hunter has had fun. He went to Nana and Grampy's and, excuse me, rode around in the snow on the sled at the farm, and then also we got a haircut with Mimi. And then, we send videos and FaceTime, and one of the things that is, hard is being away from him. I think I've said this before, that it's prior to John David being born and us having to spend all this time in the hospital, I think the longest I'd ever been away from him was 2 or 3 days max. And there have been stretches here. The longest stretch was 42 days where we didn't see him in person, and it's rough. Like it's not easy being away from him. And like FaceTime tonight, he had a moment where he has a pillow with an elk on it, and it was like, I want Daddy to watch, and he pretended that he was hunting it, and he said, "Look, Daddy, look at the big buck," which, that I'm happy that he interacted on the phone. There are times where he has a hard time, dealing with the emotions and the separation, but we have a hard time as adults dealing with that. So, of course it's going to be hard on him as a kid. But I think that's just kind of the reality of the situation, and we are blessed to have a support system that has helped take care of him through all of this. He's, primarily stayed at the lake with Mimi and Papa, but he's also gone and stayed with Mama Kay. He's stayed with Grammy and Pop. He stayed with family friends. Everybody has kind of stepped up and helped take care of him, and we appreciate that a lot. But it also has not been the easiest for him to deal with all of this, and I don't know. I'm venting, but it just I think sometimes it is rough on other family members. I know we're here obviously at the hospital, but I think sometimes people forget about the siblings. And so I think he is doing as well as any big brother could during all of this. He loves his baby brother, and I think that is to be commended. But yeah, sorry again for venting all that. If y'all would pray for these 2 things. One, that John David will continue to do well. We'll get good images back from the CT tomorrow, so we can start kind of down that path of working towards rehabilitation and working towards his next surgery in March. 2, if you'll pray for all of those who lost loved ones, especially those who have lost children. And then 3, if you will pray for all of the kids and families who are battling CHD, because it is a long and tough road. And then also, this is Heart Month. One of the things that is just a fun fact, babies have a heart the size of a walnut, which is about yay big. And if you've ever wondered, how tough this is, imagine working on something about that size And more specifically, a lot of the things that these surgeons are working on are like valves or arteries or veins that are either leaving or coming back to the heart. And so, that's the size of the heart. That is not the size of the things that most of the time they're working on. They're usually working on things much smaller than that inside the heart or in or around the heart. And so it's just incredibly impressive. We have a wonderful surgeon who's worked on him, Dr. Overby, who is phenomenal and has been with us every step of the way through this. So we're really hoping and praying that this next surgery coming up in March, that he will behave for Dr. Overby and that this will be his smoothest one yet. But again, it is just incredibly impressive what people like Dr. Overby can do working on hearts that are that big. And obviously his heart's a little bit bigger now, but when he was a baby, and he still is a baby, I mean, he's 11 months old, but it just is very impressive what they can do. And we are very, very blessed to be able to have him as our surgeon. But also, one last thing before I go, during all of this, I have kind of found inspiration in a lot of different things. One being daily devotionals that somebody gave me during all this. It's a little daily devotional called Jesus Calling. And one of the more recent verses kind of stood out. And it was from Matthew 6:34. And it was like, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." And that is definitely a good verse to live by while you're up here in this place, because every day definitely has its own troubles and plenty of it, and you just got to take it one day at a time. There's no use about worrying about tomorrow until you get there, because you got plenty on your plate for today. And that is especially on the ICU side. The step down side, a little bit different, but the ICU side, definitely every day is, you should go one day at a time. And then one other thing, Mama Kay and Mallory went out and got me some snacks, and one of the things I really love is dark chocolate. And so they got me some Dove's dark chocolate, and I don't know if y'all have ever eaten any of the Dove's chocolate, but when you open the wrapper, there's little, motivational or inspirational quotes, and the first two that I opened were really appropriate for John David. Primarily, I guess, one for what we've learned from him is that you don't have to make big changes all the time. He likes to make big changes in the wrong direction a lot of times. However, in the right direction, it is by small steps. And this one is, one small step can lead to something big. And that is definitely true for him, that it is one small step at a time. We actually have one attending here, Dr. Joe Zakar, who called them JD steps. He doesn't take baby steps, he takes JD steps. And so one small step definitely can lead to somewhere good. You just have to add enough of them together. And I think that is something applicable not just here in medicine, but just in our lives in general. It doesn't have to be a big change. It can be small incremental changes, and that's something that I hope, it's definitely something that I knew before this, but has definitely been reinforced by being here and learning from him. And then the other one is write your own fairy tale and be your own hero. And I think John David is definitely doing that. I think we talked about one of the attendings this past week was saying that he definitely is playing his own game and writing his own rules to it. And so he is definitely going to be the hero of his own story. That is something that John David has gotten pretty good at, and we all just have to kind of figure out where we fit in the story with him. To use the phrase of quite a few of the staff up here, it's his world and we're just living in it. So, but yeah, I definitely think that those kind of hit home. Eating chocolate and reading those just kind of helps put some stuff into perspective. But hope y'all have a good night and God bless. Y'all continue to choose up daily, and see y'all later.
this little fish, and when you press this button, he does that.
Oh my goodness. Who fed Rock so much food again? Oh my.
I don't know. That was not me.
It was not you.
Maybe it was Lucy.
Lucy fed Rock more food than they're supposed to have?
Yes.
This is horrible.
Lucy did, not me. Fell down at Nana's house.
You fell down at Nana's house?
Yeah, we were in the snow. But we built in the snowman. He was really beautiful. He had Daddy's vest on and Grampy's head on.
Grampy's vest and Grampy's hat.
Big brother Wolfie. Big brother fish. Bye-bye. Bye, Wolfie.
Be home with
Bye-bye, $1 alligator. Bye-bye, book.
And John David, tell everybody bye-bye.